festivities. And when I was here then, I told you I was thinking about running for governor. And since then, I decided to run for governor. And made the announcement in March. And basically, let me just tell you what's happened since the last time you and I have talked. When I left here, I went through a process of thinking very carefully about what I wanted to do, and I felt I had to answer 3 questions. One was, did I have something to contribute? I mean, there's a lot of reasons to run for public office, and I think the best reason is because you want to do something. You want to help the state move forward. And so I'm very interested and very passionate about public education. I care a lot about economic opportunity, and I'm dismayed by what's going on now with healthcare. And so that, I believe I have something to contribute. The second thing was to make sure that my family was on board for me to continue to do something in public life. You know, I was the public defender for Nashville, the director of law, served 2 terms as mayor. And they're all in. And since I last saw you all in February, Valentine's Day, I became a grandfather. So basically, in this decision-making process, I interpreted my granddaughter's gurgling as being her assent to me running for office again. And then I think I had to decide this, and this is an important question that I think is very relevant, is there a path to win? There's a lot of good ways to get exercise. Running for office is not the best. And if you're going to run for office, I think it's important to try to identify a path how you can be successful. And so in thinking about this, I've identified lots of reasons why this can be very, very successful. You know, this region, Middle Tennessee region, is going to account for about 42% of the vote in the upcoming general election for governor. Right, that's obviously an area that I know well and I'm well known in. We have a history in Tennessee going back to the 1970s when we set 2-term limits for governor, where every 8 years since the 1970s, we have alternated the governorship between Democrats and Republicans. And so you can think back to periods such as back when Lamar Alexander was governor. He was governor at a time as a Republican when you had heavy Democratic majorities in the House and in the Senate. And he still served. And I think most people would agree he was a successful governor. And so it's not an uncommon thing in this state or in other states where you have a legislature dominated by one party and a governor elected from another party. It's almost like a good idea to establish some balance and some sense of hearing more ideas and kind of looking out for each other. And so I think that speaks well. I think the party is mobilized. Just look at the crowd that's here tonight. People know that what's going on right now isn't the way we want it to be in this country. And people want to restore a sense of balance to politics. You know, you can have disagreements with people, but we still benefit when we work together, whether we're Democrats or Republicans. And now there is such this feeling of strain in the political system that this need to return to balance is vitally important. And then finally, I think what the voters of Tennessee want in a governor is they want somebody who is going to be pragmatic, has common sense, and is basically want to get things done. I think having executive experience matters. My 2 terms as mayor of a major city, I think, provides that. I think, you know, there's a famous quote, you know, there's not a Democrat or Republican way about filling a pothole. People just want the pothole filled. People would like to see the government work on issues that really matter to the voters and to get things done. So in my mind, the issues that matter to the voters are, number 1, public education. That is absolutely the thing as we need to get right as a state. That's the thing, that is the game changer, that's going to move us forward. That's what I worked very hard on when I was mayor in Nashville. I mean, I think we need to continue to make progress in terms of producing more college graduates, but at the same time, we need to recognize that lots of young people are going to make a decision not to go to college immediately, and we need to be sure that we have great vocational education, technical schools that help them get jobs and careers that will help them live a good life. I also think it's very important that we pay our teachers well, and that we recognize that particularly in some fields, but really across the board, it is more competitive than ever to hire teachers. And we're competing not only just with the states that surround us, we're competing with states all over the country. And if we're going to make the big leap that Tennessee has tried so hard for really 16 years, and we need to continue to try hard to make the big leap in education, we've got to pay our teachers well. And I'm committed to doing this. I think economic opportunity is vitally important. You know, there's lots of good news in this state. Unemployment is at record lows. There are some parts of the state, some cities, Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga are doing great, but there are some parts of the state, particularly small towns, that are really hurting, and that wonder whether that tradition, their lifestyle can survive. And I think we really need to double down and make sure we're doing everything we can to support all parts of Tennessee to bring prosperity everywhere. And that's an area I worked hard on as mayor, and I would love to try to bring prosperity to all of Tennessee, whether it's the cities or whether it's the rural areas or whether it's a small town. And then lastly, I think the issue that's on people's mind the most right now is health care. Vanderbilt did a statewide poll a couple months ago. Healthcare is the #1 issue. I can tell you from having been, as of tonight, to 51 counties since I announced I was running for governor, that the biggest issue people ask me about is healthcare. And let me just start by saying people in Tennessee really understand and are beginning to truly appreciate, I think Democrats and Republicans, what a huge mistake it was not to do the Medicaid expansion. When you stop and think that essentially the federal government has said, we'll give you $3 billion to help your citizens who are most at risk to have access to health insurance, to help people who have pre-existing conditions to be able to get insurance, to help people who are aging who can no longer afford insurance to get affordable insurance, to help our kids who are changing jobs and moving around and doing different things to get insurance. And they offered that to us, and we rejected it. The legislature didn't allow it to go to a vote. And we said no. If the federal government had offered us $3 billion for our roads and transit stuff, we would have taken that in a heartbeat. But when it's for the care of our citizens' health, they said no. And so now we're in this position where I don't know what's going to happen finally in Washington. But you have a president's budget that cuts Medicare, that cuts Medicaid, and if all of that passes, we're going to be in a tough spot. And I think the next governor has got to be prepared to go into office knowing that we have a medical situation, a health insurance situation, where people need to work together, be a champion for all of our citizens, work with the faith community, work with philanthropy, work with our great hospitals, work with our great healthcare business, and find solutions that will help Tennesseans have really quality healthcare. Those, I think, are the issues voters care about. They also care about privatization. Voters do not want our state parks to be privatized. To me than that. And when you think about state parks, you know, you think about who set up our national and state park systems. I mean, it was Franklin Roosevelt did it during the 30s, during the Depression. Theodore Roosevelt started off at the turn of the century in the early 1900s. And these parks were created to be preserved forever as natural places that were accessible to all citizens, all Tennesseans. And they were never to have a charge for going to those parks. And they were to be affordable. And that is something that we have to say no to, and we have to say no to it very loudly. I think the environment is an issue that is important for us to talk about. You know, we need to make sure that when we have state boards and commissions that there's a balance there. We need to make sure that we are protecting the beauty of the state. You know, one of the great things about running for governor is you go back and forth on I-40 and you see all the state. You see lots of things you maybe I hadn't seen before. This is truly a beautiful, beautiful place. And it is our responsibility to protect it. Look, let me just say that I need your help. I need your vote. You can go to karldean.com and you can volunteer. There's ways in which you can contribute financially, which is important. But I really do believe this about our state in the future. This is a special place. And our best days are still ahead of us as a state. The best days for Tennessee are coming, and that's pretty exciting. But to get there, we've got to focus on the things that matter, the things that we can control, such as education, economic opportunity, and health. Thank you for this great crowd, and thank you for being such loyal Democrats.